Hey guys, Brian here with Drotto. I want to talk a little bit about aligning your boat correctly with the latch. We get a lot of guys that ask questions about how the latch is actually supposed to fit up against the boat. So if you come in and look here, the center keel on this boat should lay flat inside the center channel. There's about a 1-inch wide center channel on the latch cover. You want most of that keel to lay flat against that channel. That's the main thing you need to worry about. It doesn't necessarily matter if it hits this roller. This roller is here just to kind of help guide the keel over the latch when you're loading and unloading. The sides of this plastic cover actually very rarely make contact with the hull unless you got kind of a flatter boat design or your keel's really short. So the main thing to look for is if you got a big gap between the top of the latch here and the keel, it's usually a sign that this entire winch stand is either angled too low or set too low. That's going to create a big gap there and kind of push the jaws more into the bow eye, which you don't want. So if you have a big gap at the top here, all you got to do is lift the angle of this winch stand or raise your winch stand if you got a U-bolt style, and it'll fix that gap there. In the opposite direction, if you're coming in and trying to load and your boat seems like it's having to lift way up onto the latch when you're loading, almost climbing up onto it, some people can have to really power up and take a lot of juice to get up onto the latch. It might just be a sign the thing's too high. So you can just drop the height of the winch stand or lower the angle a bit and it'll just kind of glide into place a little easier. So it takes a little finesse. Every boat's a little different. You just got to kind of play with it. Again, these Shorelander profile stands have a lot of adjustments here. You can just pop that bolt out, adjust the angle. There's also a second mounting hole on the latch itself. Typically we latch it into the front one, but there is a back mounting hole here if you want to play with the angle a little that way too. Again, just trial and error. This roller also is attached to a bracket that's adjustable. And if you look in here, there's some slots or grooves where these bolts are. You can just loosen these nuts up a bit and actually lift this roller up a little bit if you want it to make a little more contact. Out of the gate, we send those in the lowest position, but again, every boat's a little different, so you can adjust it to your liking. Another thing to look at is the forward-back position of the latch, or the entire winch stand. You can actually adjust most winch stands forward on the trailer tongue to try to keep your boat in the same position. The contact point between the jaws on this latch and the bow eye on your boat is actually going to be a little bit further back than what the default or existing contact point was between the roller on the winch stand and when you're in your bow eye. So when you install this latch, it's going to probably shift your boat back anywhere between 2 to 4 inches depending on the angle of the stand. So as you can see on this one, I've actually got a little bit of play on these rollers, which is a sign that this boat probably is just a little bit too far back compared to where it should be. So to fix that, I can either drop that winch stand down a bit, or I can just shift the whole boat forward. So when I installed this, I actually did not slide the winch stand forward at all. So as you can see, most times from the factory, these back rollers on these roller trailers sit pretty flush on the edge of this transom here. So all I'd need to do is shift this entire winch stand forward on the tongue a couple inches, and this boat's gonna sit how it did from the factory. So I'll quick show you generally the things you gotta do to prep for that. And then to slide this winch stand forward, all I'm gonna need is for this boat, or this trailer, is a 3/4 inch wrench to loosen up these bolts and slide the whole thing forward. So to get started, I'll just measure kind of the distance here that I need to move it. And in this case, I want the back of the roller to sit kind of flush on the back edge here. So I'm just gonna slide it up 3 inches. So I can walk back to the front. Take a little piece of tape here and just mark where that 3-inch point would be if I slide this whole stand forward. 3 inches right there. So in order to do that, I actually got to get the boat in the water. In my particular case, drop all the weight off here, come back and slide this whole stand forward. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, with the boat unloaded now, we can go ahead and slide this entire winch stand forward 3 inches on the trailer tongue. All we need for my particular trailer is a 3/4 inch wrench. It's gonna vary, again, depending on which trailer and model you got. But we'll go ahead and loosen up these 3 bolts. That hold the winch stand in place. And we can just slide it forward up into our blue tape. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a tape measure and just see where I was last time, just to make sure. With it slid forward, just tighten your bolts back up. Cool, and now our boat should sit further forward, so we can go ahead and get it loaded back up again. All right, with the boat loaded back up and this winch stand slid forward, you can definitely see how it's sitting a little bit more flat on these rollers. And if we walk to the back here, you'll see that the back of the transom is actually sitting on these rollers along these rivet lines where it's supposed to be. So yeah, if you have any issues with the boat sitting too far back on your trailer, just slide the winch stand forward like I showed. There's gonna be a couple options if you don't have an adjustable winch stand. We do sell a forward bracket system. It looks like this. These 2 bolts here just mount to the 2 mounting bolts on the Drotto. And then this mounting bolt will actually mount to your winch stand. So it'll shift this entire latch unit forward about 3 inches on the trailer if you don't have any forward adjustment on your tongue or you have a welded stand, etc. So if you have any questions, just email support@drottoproducts.com.